You are listening to the Ranges Podcast.
I remember I was driving in my truck to the post office probably to drop packages off, and the email came in. Luke said, "Hey, you guys want to play Dunk Festival 2024?" And it was just like, oh boy, not expecting that at all. And then you sent a screenshot of it to the group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, and it was just like, I don't remember what I said, but it was like, I feel like we have to do it.
Right.
Because we got invited versus like, hey, can we play Dunk Festival kind of thing? You know, it was,
right.
They wanted us to come. It's like, well, we can't say no.
In a headlining spot for the ballroom, which is like, I don't know. It would be, I mean, we deliberated, and there were some that's like, it sounds hard. I don't know if we can pull it off. Do we skip this year? It's like, I don't know. You have to take that. I think we have to make that happen.
Right. Because of the momentum of the album going well, and everything it was just falling in line. That wasn't we didn't expect that.
No, but doing it twice already, knowing how great it is to play it, that's the other part that you're like, well, you got to figure out how to do it because you don't turn that one down.
Right. Yes.
Doing something with the album too. Because, I mean, we had some ideas for keeping the momentum going, but nothing really does that like a tour.
Right.
Showing photos of touring, playing live, getting video, showing people that you're the real deal.
Right. And not to mention the experience of going and doing that with your best friends.
Right.
Yeah. Just like that whole experience is, you can't really compare it to anything else.
No.
And you do it once and I don't know, you're hooked.
Yeah.
And it's something that we agreed we can't do. We can't do touring to the extent that other bands do.
Right.
Months long in a van.
Between jobs and kids and responsibilities at home. It's just not something that we can do.
No. Nor do I really want to. I mean, it's hard out there for a long time. So
yeah, so you get the invite and then it's immediately trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to pull this off? Because it's just Mark and myself doing music. You're doing all the video, photo stuff. And like we need half a band to fill that out. So my brain kicks into overdrive just trying to solve that problem, which was what the next few months was. Just like, for me, it was going back, all right, we just recorded these songs. I don't know how to play them because it was all just recording in the moment and writing down ideas. It's like, okay, I got to go back through and relearn every part and build out tablature to be able to, for my sake, to be able to know what I was playing and what parts I was going to play. And then building out guitar parts and the bass parts for whoever was going to fill in. And then going back into the Ascensionist and Cardinal Winds and Babel and like learning all of Joey's parts because he's gone. So I got to learn his parts and I got to remember my parts. So like that months of just going through all that. That was a lot of work.
Tab the parts for whoever would be playing them. And maybe you'd figured that out at that point. I don't remember what the timeline of that conversation, but
going back to 2022 where we had toured with Astadan and I think made really good relationships with them and became good friends. And immediately for me, it was always, well, Tim and Tom from Astadan were the guys. My first choice because they're in Belgium and they're on the same wavelength. They understand what we're doing and who we are, and we get along. So that was and
great musicians too.
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
Multiple bands and having seen their performance and stage presence every night of the last tour. And
Yeah. So I sent the invite to both of them separately, and both of them immediately were on board 100%. And the next day asking me for tabs, and the next day saying I figured it out without the tabs, and like I learned this part. It's like, are you playing in drop B's? Like, no, it's in standard tuning. And they're like, wait, what? I got to get a different guitar, and did all the stuff. Like adapted the way in which they play to fit how we play, while also bringing their style to it, which was the best part of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they crushed it. They learned all the parts and were probably more prepared than you and I were in the months leading up.
Not surprising.
Right. Yeah, so then you and I were rehearsing every Saturday.
Yeah.
From February to April.
Yeah. Because I wanted to be in tour shape.
Yeah, because we hadn't played live. The last time we played live was Dunk 2022.
Yeah, which is crazy.
The 2-year hiatus of just
not playing live.
Right.
And so this time we only had a week of time and definitely playing the festival. But instead of, we've been around Germany and France and got into, went up to play Copenhagen last time. But this time thought we'd try to play the UK or England.
Yeah. And I guess because we, like you said, we hadn't done that before.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't really remember exactly why other than what you just said.
And we had the connection to Den of Celestial Birds, which we had just recently signed to 1,000 Arms Music,
right,
and just put their album out. And so, hit them up about the possibility of doing it, and they were on board immediately too, which they had been building up a pretty significant following around the UK over the last year or so.
Yeah, I mean they'd played Arctangent, they were touring what seemed to be as much as they could, and they were just really well put together, and it's like, well, I feel good about this. I'm gonna hit them up and see if they'd be down to play 3 shows, and totally were. And I think within a couple weeks, maybe a month tops, they'd already booked everything, which is nuts.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So it's cool to just have built that relationship.
Yeah, and then they added Fort as the other band on the UK tour. So it was 3 dates, ended up being 3 dates we were going to do in the UK, and then finish with Dunk Festival in Ghent.
Right.
Have a couple extra days to hang out and head back.
Yep. Yeah, so we, obviously the 3 of us were set to go, and then we had Tim and Tom on playing guitar and bass, and then Sean Oliver was the obvious choice to hit up to drive the van, because the first time we did Europe in 2018, I drove the van, and that was horrible. We did it, but it was...
On top of doing literally everything else.
Right, yeah.
Logistics and all that.
In 2022, I was definitely like, I'm not driving anymore. So Sean's hired, and we'll give you free merch in exchange, and he was all about it.
Because we had met Sean at Dunk Festival when CJ and I went there in 2017.
Yeah.
And he was just a fan. Mm-hmm. And lives in Salt Lake, would go to Dunk Festival, and had a whole crew of friends and people he knew there. So we kind of met him through those connections, and then continued that relationship through the band and through post-festival and things like that. So he had become a pretty good friend at that point. And the fact that he was just totally down to drive a van of a bunch of dudes.
Right, even after
it's amazing.
Doing it in 2022 for 2 weeks, driving every day.
Long drives,
yeah.
Like 8-9 hour drives across Germany.
Dealing with the crew. I mean, I think we're all right, guys, but we each have our quirks. But I don't know, the way in which he just carries himself I love that guy. He's definitely one of my favorite humans.
Well, so you remember that, you had thrown around the idea, CJ, of we could just go do Dunk, and I said, I can't do that. We got to play other shows. And then I think we had mentioned something to Sean by then, and I think Sean might have said something like, maybe we should just hit major cities,
right?
Like Amsterdam,
Paris,
Ghent, like just stay, a few hours away from the base of Ghent, Belgium, where we were going to end up.
And so the poster looks really good.
Well, that too, you got to have a cool tour poster.
Yeah, but then you remember we almost got carjacked in Paris,
right?
2022.
But then then during that idea is when you, I think, reached out to Celestial Birds, and they said, well, we can put something together, and then just covered the whole thing in the UK, which was what worked out best.
And they couldn't play London for, I think it was too close a proximity to another show they were playing.
Festival.
Yeah, so we couldn't do London proper, but they set up shows in Bristol, Manchester, Cambridge. So kind of all around London, which I think worked out great.
Yeah. So then the two missing pieces, I suppose, was
Chuck,
sound guy Chuck, who is a wizard at his craft and a totally essential piece to us playing live at this point. I mean, we haven't played live without him since 2017.
Yeah,
or I guess the 2018 tour in Europe, he showed up for Dunk Festival.
Right.
He
Yeah.
wasn't there.
For the tour. Yeah.
Yeah, but totally part of the band at this point. And so just sending him the invite saying, hey, here's what we're going to do. Are you down? And him getting the yes from him, which was great. And then also our New Zealand friend, Joseph, pitching the idea to him of coming and being a roadie, really just wanting to see him again.
Yeah.
And he was down to book his ticket and fly from New Zealand to Europe. So the crew was complete at that point.
Yeah, 8 people from all different nationalities from all. It was a truly international.
Right. Which is my favorite part about our band. Like the fact that the 3 of us, I mean, honestly, like the 2 of us, Wilson and myself, being from Montana, born and raised, to finding a guy from New York, moving to Montana, teaming up, starting a band, and then just adding pieces and making relationships with people all around the world, bringing into the Ranges family. That's my favorite thing about the band. It's just so cool. Without, like, I mean, I don't know what it's like to be on the outside and then come into the family, because I don't know what the exchange is. It's not like we're paying people to be a part of this thing, because we're not making money either. But I don't know. It's just really cool that people just want to be a part of it and sharing the experience.
Yeah, and I realized on tour as well that every one of those 8 people was vital to the Ranges unit. I mean, you have the musicians, but then I'm doing photo, video, running merch.
Right.
Sean's driving, Chuck's doing sound engineering, Joseph's doing roadie tech.
Yeah.
Also doing documentation, also doing blogging. It's like there's no excess baggage on it. It's a very well-oiled machine, I thought.
Absolutely. And
you forgot drum tech and beer thief.
That is Joseph, aka Bagans' title.
No, he was off the sauce for most of it, most of the experience. But
he fell a little.
Yeah, well, yeah, and in looking back at like, because Wilson, you played guitar in the band from the beginning,
yeah,
and then you stepped out and you just took over the artwork and the video, photo,
brand ambassador.
Yeah, and how vital that has been to our success, because when you're a group of guys in a band and you go play a show, you have nobody taking photos, nobody documenting your thing. But having that as a tool that is just part of the band has been so valuable. And it'd be cool to see in an alternate parallel universe, like where we would be without that.
Right.
So, and then you have Sean, like you said, driving, which is a huge thing, and Chuck doing sound. Like without that, like we don't sound nearly as good live. There's no way.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great to talk to him, get some of his insight on his
for sure.
science and wizardry as far as the technicalities of frequency distribution, and it's wild.
Yeah, he totally nerds out on that stuff.
But then Sean also is doing documentation type of stuff. He's doing his own travel and writing a tour blog, and like much more extensive than what I'm doing. It's just kind of a different approach to it.
Yeah, it's super cool.
And taking us around Europe safely, getting us to these places.
Right. We've had some close calls, though. We almost died once.
But almost isn't.
It's true.
Right. We're still here.
You know?
Yeah. And he also has an exorbitant amount of
Fanta?
That and speeding tickets. That's also
right.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
No. No.
I don't think he's gotten any tickets, though, for this tour. I haven't gotten anything yet. So we'll see, though. All right, so yeah, we booked the tour, everything's good to go, and then it's time to hit the road and get out of here and go do the thing. And I don't know, the amount of logistics and planning, the time I spent on like Sunday, all Sunday on my computer, just planning where we're going to go, how we're going to get there, booking tickets for things was a ton of work just for a week. But with that, like also wanting to try to make this more than just playing the shows, like trying to see some of the UK and make stops to see Stonehenge and do touristy kind of things. Because you're there, you might as well try to squeeze that in.
For the benefit of the visuals, the video, documentation as well, because previous tours, it's if you just film the things and you're going along with a band trying to do its job, you're just filming gas stations and club green rooms and live stuff. It's not a very dynamic film that way.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, the idea, and it's just how I am. It's like, let's try to cram as much stuff as we possibly can into a tiny bit of time.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, subscribe to The Range's Patreon to hear more episodes.